You ever have one of those mornings where everything feels so perfectly, boringly normal that it almost makes you nervous? That was me, right before all hell broke loose in Maple Creek Court. Yeah, I know, it sounds dramatic, but just hear me out. My name's Robert Anderson, and after 25 years in the Army and a whole lot of dust and bad coffee, I thought I'd finally found peace in suburbia. You know, neatly trimmed lawns, nosy neighbors, the whole package. It's the kind of quiet you have to earn. I earned it brick by brick, sunrise after sunrise on my little back porch, coffee in hand, watching the world get a little older every day. But even in the safest place there's always that one thing that keeps you up at night. For me, that was my daughter, Maya. Now Maya, she's the kind of woman you read about in tech magazines. Senior software architect, 32, sharp as a tack, a brain wired different than mine ever was. She's got these big, thoughtful eyes, hides behind her glasses, talks like she's always late for a meeting, and drives this sensible little sedan. To my neighbors, she's just the quiet girl who comes over to help her old man with his Wi-Fi every Sunday. But to me, sometimes I can't help but wish she'd lived a little wilder, faced down a few dragons, something I could actually understand. Guess that's just a dad thing. Anyway, our neighborhood, Maple Creek, is one of those places where nothing ever happens. You know the type. But all that changed the day a moving truck rolled up to the house next door, the one that sat empty so long the grass grew wild around the mailbox. Out steps this picture-perfect family. Daniel, the dad, looking like he's straight out of an insurance commercial, his wife Chloe, all poised and put together, and two little kids who didn't even fight about who got which box. And the way they moved, man, it was eerie, not loud, not messy, just efficient. The whole truck emptied, house settled, curtains hung before dinner. I remember thinking, nobody's that tidy. Maya came over that night, saw me doing my usual peek through the blinds routine. Dad, stop staring. She laughed, already halfway into a leftover casserole. Maybe they're just organized. Not everything's a spy movie. But I'd spent a lifetime reading people, and something about the Devises just felt off. I'd catch Daniel standing on his porch, motionless, scanning the street. And then, like that, he'd be gone. You ever get the feeling someone's watching you, and not in a neighborly way? That's what I felt, right down to my bones. A week goes by and I'm out trimming hedges, just trying to mind my own business, when this beat-up Ford pulls into the cul-de-sac. Now, in our neighborhood, a car like that sticks out like a sore thumb. Guy in a greasy tank top, baseball cap pulled low, carrying a duffel bag that looks heavy enough to hide a body. He walks right up to Daniel's house, knocks once, and just like that, Daniel's on the porch with him. I swear, I caught a flash of metal in Daniel's hand. A pistol, small and polished. The bag changes hands. Words are said. The stranger leaves. I stood there, heart pounding, feeling like I'd just witnessed the first domino fall. I thought about Maya, about the neighbors, about how easy it is to think nothing bad ever happens in places like this until it does. I went inside, reaching for my phone, debating whether to call the cops or just chalk it up to paranoia. That's when Maya burst in, all business, her face tight with an anger I'd never seen. No glasses, no work clothes, just a black hoodie and cargo pants. Dad, what are you doing? She demanded. Before I could answer, she shut the door behind her, dropped her voice. I know what you saw. You need to trust me. This is my operation. My jaw about hit the floor. She laid it out. The Devises weren't just weird neighbors. They were a front, a splinter cell for a Russian arms trafficking ring. Maya had been undercover for weeks. You need to stay inside. You do exactly as I say. She was all command now, no trace of the little girl who used to ask for one more bedtime story. I barely had time to process it before chaos broke loose. A gunshot cracked the air, then another. I shoved Maya behind a wall, instincts I hadn't used in a decade kicking in. They're onto you, I hissed. But she just shook her head, pulling up a live feed on her phone. I'm not alone, she said, calm as ever. Outside, black SUVs screeched into the cul-de-sac. Armed tactical teams poured out, helmets, body armor, moving with terrifying precision. One figure stood out, taller, moving like a ghost, radiating authority. With a wave, everything on the street froze. Then that figure walked right up to the shattered Davis's window, looked straight at our house. My blood turned to ice. Even behind the face shield, I knew that was Maya. She pulled off her helmet, barking orders into her comms. "This is Commander Anderson. All teams, clear the house." The woman standing there wasn't the Maya I thought I knew. She was a force of nature, battle-hardened, unrecognizable except for the eyes. The next few minutes were a blur: gunfire, shouts in Russian, tactical teams moving room by room. Maya kept me pinned behind cover. Then, a radio burst. "Commander, east flank. Runner with a device." Maya swore, ordering her team to divert. I heard the screech of tires, the dull thud of a body hitting concrete. For a second, relief washed over me. They had the suspects. The street was safe. But then Maya's face went white. "He's gone," she whispered. "Daniel's gone. He was the runner. And he's got the package." My heart nearly stopped. "Activate what? What's in the bag?" She explained, her voice barely above a whisper. It was a comms hub, a server array encrypted with a virus that, if unleashed, could black out half the country's power grid. Not just a crime, but an act of war. And the man who took it? No ID, just a call sign: Mongoose. Suddenly, everything clicked. The efficiency, the way they moved, the way we'd all been played. I looked at Maya, saw the weight on her shoulders, saw her not as my daughter, but as a commander facing the worst kind of failure. "Who else knows?" I asked, feeling that old familiar sense of mission settling in. "Only my team," she said, "and my superiors. But Mongoose, he's a ghost." I felt something in me snap back to life. Old instincts, old patterns. "We're not waiting for backup," I told her. "I know his type. There's always a trail." Together, we started piecing things together. The scuff on the asphalt where the runner had jumped into the SUV, the way the escape route used a bend in the road nobody would notice, the subtle marks that only someone who spent years in the field would recognize. Maya's team had focused on the digital, the obvious, but missed the physical, the tells, the tracks, the invisible threads only an old hunter would spot. That's when it hit her. It wasn't a two-man cell. It was a fire team. 3, maybe 4. Everything we thought we knew was a misdirection. We hadn't stopped the threat. We'd just caught the decoys. Then came the kicker. On my own front mat, beneath the dirt and blood, I found a symbol, a faint, 3-pointed star. Maya stared at it like she'd seen a ghost. "The 3rd Legion," she whispered. "But they're a myth. Supposed to have been dismantled in Vienna a decade ago." I shook my head. "Myth or not, they're real. And they're after me." That's the twist no one saw coming. 10 years ago, I was part of the task force that took down their old leader, the bishop. Vienna was a bloodbath, but I walked away. Apparently, some ghosts don't stay buried. Now, they were back, and they'd used Maya, used all of us, to send a message. This wasn't just about chaos or power grids. This was about revenge. Maya wanted to call it in, tell the Bureau, but I knew better. They'll never believe us. The official story is all they want. We have to prove it. That's how we ended up tracking the tiniest traces: a divot in the lawn, a scuff on a car, a coded signal buried in the comms hub's last gasp before it went dark. All signs pointed to the old industrial park at the edge of town. Perfect blind spot for the next move. "You can't go," Maya pleaded. "It's a trap." But I could see it clear as day. This wasn't her fight. This was mine. The hunter, not the hammer. She tried to order me to stand down, but I just shook my head, climbed into my car, and left her standing there, gunpowder in the air, the illusion of peace shattered for good. As I drove, I thought about everything I'd built here: the yard, the routines, the quiet breakfasts, and how none of it was ever really safe. Not when you've got unfinished business. Maya watched me go, torn between duty and blood, caught in the web these ghosts had spun around both of us. I knew she'd come after me. That's what a hunter does. And, turns out, that's what a daughter does too. Back at the scene, her team scrambled, protocols flying out the window, searching for a car that never was, a suspect who vanished like smoke. She told them just enough to stay in charge, but not the whole truth. Then she ran her own trace on the comms hub, a burst of code, an old family signature only she'd recognize, pointing straight to the industrial park. She geared up alone, eyes hard, badge glinting, mind made up. No more rules. No more waiting. This was personal now, a game of ghosts and hunters, fathers and daughters, unfinished wars and old debts come due. I'd spent a decade trying to keep Maya away from my shadows. Now, she was walking straight in after me. And that's the thing about peace. It's always just one secret away from shattering. So, you tell me, where does it end? Is justice about following rules, or doing whatever it takes to protect the people you love? I'm not sure anymore. But I'll tell you this. If you've ever thought your quiet little street was safe, think again. The real stories don't make the news. They play out behind closed doors, in the silences between fathers and daughters, in the lies we tell to keep each other safe. So what would you do? Play by the book and lose everything, or break the rules for one last shot at justice? I want to hear it. Drop your take in the comments. Tell me where you stand. Because out here, sometimes the only thing standing between chaos and order is someone willing to break the silence.